Well, morning, fellow zombies. Are we alive yet? Are we awake yet? I think it's round two for this morning. It's 5:27 in the morning, West Coast time. It's 20th of June, 2024. Summertime is here. Summer barbecuing is here. The hot dogs, the hamburgers, the nitrates, the artificial stuff going through our systems. Aren't we going to have fun tonight? Yeah, we're going to have fun tonight. No celebration, just commiseration. But trying to get ready for trying to get ready for July 4th. In spirit, if not physically. This is supposed to be a very patriotic holiday season where everyone starts showing their red, white, and blues, and there comes the politics and everything else coming out of the woodworks. Drives me crazy when it happens. Politics suck, especially when they're trying to make proven points and try to show how patriotic, ultra patriotic, MAGA patriotic, fascist patriotic, super uber duper patriotic. We gotta show everything. We gotta shove it in people's faces. We gotta do this. We gotta do that. And I keep thinking to myself, we have gone out of our bloody minds. Just how much of the colors are we supposed to be shoving in people's faces to prove how patriotic and loyal we are to our country? Well, we keep forgetting our own country's history left and right. We want to take things back, but we can't take it back because it just doesn't work that way. What times, what periods did you want to take it back that we were still struggling for identity, for existence? We want to show that we're so supportive of our country that we're willing to kill each other over the damn thing. We're willing to break laws over it. That we're willing to yell and scream, "You're not patriotic enough, and therefore you're against us." No, we're more patriotic than you, and you're against us. So naturally, we got the logger jams going on. Seeing it too much these days. Some people were fighting for rights, liberties, pursuit of their form of happiness that wasn't trumping, I'm going to use that word, that wasn't overpowering someone else's. But no, it's either one viewpoint or otherwise. And to me, that's just pure fascism. That's pure fascism. History is replete, is full of this stuff. Just how much of it we're going to be shoving in people's faces left and right to explain to them that and I can't tell you if we are or not. I don't understand it. I'm still trying to figure it out, and it's a pain in the ass. It is. Sometimes I get sick and tired, and I'll say it. I get sick and tired of seeing the red, white, and blue all the time being used in many formats other than flags being waved. But even sometimes I'll see the flags being waved, and I'm wondering what kind of country we just landed ourselves into. One challenging democracy so much that we're willing to destroy it in order to save it or recreate it. We look at the Constitution as a hindrance, but we think it's the ultimate, or else we think it needs to be changed entirely. If it needs to be changed entirely, how come there weren't any councils, meetings, conventions, things brought up in the floor of Congress? The politics gets hot and heavy. We don't want this guy to have it because it's a win on his thing, and we want to win on the other guy because he's got to have it all. He has to have it because we're so enthralled with this guy that we're willing to sacrifice everything of what matters to us being Americans for this guy because that's America. And I'm thinking to myself, you throw it away for authoritative regimes. You want us to go back, but we're going back to 1930s or 40s thinking at this point. We're one country got its ass kicked because they got, I don't know what the hell was the major contention in the World War One that we had, except an assassination attempt started a chain reaction that's still continuing to this day. And we're still feeling the effects. To me, there was no golden time in our country. Some of the historians may try to find it, but there was no golden time in our country. It was just another day of dealing with survival and trying to see if you're going to be able to expand borders. And if you couldn't expand borders, then you got to expand other types of borders, trade deals, more things to find in the ground buried, dig it up, see if you can exploit the living crap out of it. If it's an energy resource, exploit the living daylights out of the damn thing. But if it's not, well, then it's not, and you deal with that. It gets harder and harder for us to deal with it. It gets that hard. I never could quite figure out the ultra-fascist thinking about being patriotic. We want to feel like we're part of this country, and yet we are part of the country. We are so part of the country, it's not even funny. So, we want to show just how much we are quote-unquote Americans, but we can't treat each other that way. Doesn't work. So we have to skull thump people on that one. But we want it taken to a point of religious viewpoint. People keep screaming about Sharia law, which means you have religious principles and religious doctrines that are more prevalent and more imperative for a lot of people, for other people to follow, because they're not comfortable with just worshiping by themselves. They need to have a group of people surrounding them on a point where they're screwing things up left and right for everybody on. They don't care. You got to be us. You have to be part of this one because we say so, because we are that insecure about it. It's observations and what they're saying these days. And the videos being viral, passed around left and right on social media. YouTube's finding them left and right. Other groups demonstrating that on YouTube by showing what ultra-patriotism and ultra-fascism is all about, even in churches. They use the clips over and over again. It's like, what else can we screw ourselves up with just to show how patriotic, to show the red, white, and blue? Some people will probably think I'm not that patriotic. I'm not part of the country. Therefore, I had to be tossed out because I am not part of them. I just never understood it that when you were creating the country, everything that we wanted was everybody was going to be unique, celebrate things their own way, and yet have a common theme. But everybody kept assuming that the common theme was going to be their own version of what the country should be. And everyone else should worship it because they say so, for whatever reason it's going through them. I couldn't deal with this crap. I swear to God, I couldn't deal with this shit. So, what am I supposed to say or do about that one? We got July 4th coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be celebrating our country's birthday, about 248 years. 248 years. I remember when it was 200 years old. 1976, I'm somewhere watching fireworks exploding and having a freak out. I remember going to my aunts and uncles out in Bell. Kids would bring up sparklers, would laugh, dance, because this would be July 4th for them, and it was imperative for them to do this. Now, some of the things the parents would think about is if you actually had fireworks, you had to have a bucket of water to put the hot stuff in so it would soak it, and then everything else would be right, right? But me, I had to wear a flammable shirt, a yellow flammable shirt. And I was going to go outside and hold a firework for the first time in my hand and tell them, be careful, be careful. How's a young kid supposed to understand what careful is? He understands that a shirt goes on fire. And if it wasn't for my brother's quick action of within a within a second or two taking a bucket of water and dumping it on me, and then he gets yelled at because he dumped a bucket of water on me, but they'd love to see me burning up like crazy. He saves my ass and gets the ire of everybody because he had to spoil their July 4th. They intended to use me as a firework. I'm never going to understand these people. I'd seen sparklers out here as an adult. I had to keep a watch on these people. I had to make sure that if I'm going to have enough money saved, I'd have to have a fire extinguisher ready to go at a second's notice. We got fire extinguishers in this complex. So smash the containers we have, grab the firework, run like hell if I can, douse the people. Because we're dealing with fire. We're dealing with flammables all over this complex here, all over the desert. And any spark hitting the ground that lives long enough ignites flammable items, and if they're susceptible to it, boom, we would have fire. And it would scare the hell out of people because we would be losing our homes. Several years ago, I was like maybe 3 or 4 years after my brother. So I think it was about 1 or 2 years after my brother passed away. Within that time, we had we had uh, kids playing around with rocket launchers. Some of them inside, and then they moved to the outside, from the back end to the street. And they wanted to launch it right over our complex. Well, they tried to launch it right over the complex. And when they did that, caught the neighbors' attention, but they didn't know which particular unit that they lived in. It's just basic neighborhood hoodlums. A few of them actually did live in the complex, but I didn't know which unit, and I didn't know which kid lived in which unit. But I know they lived in this area. And one of the rockets was launched in a wrong area that it got lodged in a tree. And if it wasn't for one particular neighbor who had a cold drink, a large container of it, we would have lost the complex. Fire department wouldn't get here fast enough, so it had to be neighbors fighting this thing up, and the guy just dumped his drink all on it, calmed it down a bit. I'm not quite sure if it saved it enough, but I'm hoping we didn't have that thing smolder, because if it started smoking up again, we'd really be in trouble, wouldn't we? So every so often I had to keep an eye on that tree just to make sure. I've heard Stories coming from the fire department that fire can live in a tree for years, just slowly eating away until it starts an ignition, and then boom, gets enough oxygen, boom. That's what I worry about. That's what I worry about. We've had fires in this complex before, ever since ever since I got in this place with my brother. A few units have already been uh, lit up and had to be remodeled. Fire extinguishers came on. Fire alarms were scaring the hell out of people left and right. But it did douse one particular unit. It's not the upper unit that you had to worry about. It's the lower units down below to get the flood damage, and not to mention the mold and stuff. See, it just affects the complex. So I have to keep an eye on the complex here for fire. Because what affects someone upstairs is going to be ruining stuff down here. And some of the stuff I have here is priceless. Junk for them, but still priceless stuff for me. So I have to be on my guard again. Not going to be fast enough, but I'm going to be on the guard anyway. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, I try to be patriotic, put up a flag, show my colors to the country, to the neighborhood, that yes, I'm a loyal, patriotic American. But, but, the things that we do and show for our loyalty, how much we love our country, sometimes I wonder if we're doing it for the right reasons or not. I hope we are. Sometimes I don't think I do the founding fathers enough justice. But as long as I keep talking about the concept of what I think is American, of keeping the concept of what the Constitution means to me, of what traditions mean to me. Cooking traditions are one thing. Um, Demonstrating with some of our principles that we grew up with without trying to shove them down people's throats. Show how pluralistic we are in accepting, or at least acknowledging, that other people have their own way of looking at the country one way or another. Even if we may disagree with the living crap out of it. But it's still America. It's advanced citizenship, according to one particular movie quote. You gotta want it bad. You really gotta want it bad to understand the differences and be able to deal with that concept. That it is a place of compromise. Democracy demands compromise. You have the two parties going after each other, but there has to be a common gray area. There cannot be polarization. If there are polarization, the country doesn't work. There can be polarization, but there also has to be a maneuvering room. We have a House of Representatives. We have a U.S. Senate, both conflicting with each other, but they also find a way to get things done. It takes time for some measures, and other measures it takes a lot of years because how polarized it can be over it. But if there is wiggle room, compromise, then it works. We have leaders elected into our political positions. Sometimes there's conflict in that too. We are a conflicted nation. We are not a nation at war, at peace with each other. We are conflicted, but we are trying to compromise. We're trying to be adaptable enough to allow both sides to have their say and find a gray area that we can actually work and operate in. But we get so caught up with the extremes that we fail to see what matters to the rest of the country, except for our own self-interests that we have. And basically, if we're going to be forcing religion down people's throats, that's not acceptable and that's not allowed. Not by any legal definition or by any other definition. Unless, of course, we're going to be turning into an autocratic society for religion or for political beliefs. Yeah, my own opinion, my own thought patterns on these things. That's what I think and that's what I say. But does it go for the rest of the country? Nope. Unless there's points that are acknowledged that can be built upon. That maybe there's going to be a strong enough foundation to build upon that to continue the progress. You ever looked at a dollar bill, the U.S. dollar? Look in the back of it. In the back of it, you see in the circle period, in one of the circle images, the Great Pyramid. But you see that the top of the pyramid is already built, the bottom period portion of it is already built, but the middle is incomplete. It's incomplete because the country is incomplete. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a growing country. And sometimes we don't like the direction it grows or mutates into. But our country has to find its way, find its shape, find what it takes for meaning and depth. What is the definition of our country? And it doesn't have to be a solidified one. Dynamics change, viewpoints change, has to change, has to grow. It cannot be it cannot be a solid object, a solidified structure or pyramid. Everyone wants that. That's their own opinion. We want that. But then after that, then what? Well, it's that. Then what? But it's just that. Then what? You don't understand. It's just it. Okay, that's it. It has to be that way. In my viewpoint, it has to be that way. It cannot be anything else. You can't think about that one because I tell you so. And that's why it has to be open. No, it cannot be. No, 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 no. It has to be. It has to be. It has to be glorious. It has to be. And it's undefinable for the extremists because they don't know how to define it. They want it solidified, and it's still not perfect for them. It could be anything else. It's still not perfect for them. They cannot be satisfied. But the ones who accept that it's pluralistic, it's changeable, it's adaptable, we can grow. We can try growing into something else hideous in some eyesight, beautiful in the other one, or it's still adapting, growing, changing into something else we don't know about, or afraid to see. But every day defines us. Every day, every hour, every second defines us. What we say, think, do, accomplish, or not accomplish. But that's still not accomplishing anyway by not accomplishing. But it is what it is. And with that being said, more to come.